So now what we're going to try to do is make something from nothing. And so here in this file, we're going to make a tree. The first thing we want to make sure is that all our layers are locked, and we're going to add a couple of new layers so that we can do the work. The first thing we do is go into the Layers palette and click the New Layer button. This is the empty layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill it with a background color. So we go up to the Edit menu and go Fill. The foreground color, normal 100% is fine, say OK. And then lock it. And then just above that we're going to make another layer by going down to the same button in the Layers palette. And this one we're going to name Tree 1 and hit the Return button or the Enter button. The next thing we're going to do is go over to the Tool palette, and if you hold down any tool that has this little arrow next to it, you get different choices. Usually the tool palette has the default tool here, but what we want to do is hold this down and go to the Polygonal Lasso tool. The next thing we want to make sure is that it's set at a 0 feather, because we don't want any soft edges. And remembering that we can build the tree as large as possible to make it easy for ourselves. Remember, we're on the tree layer. We're going to start using the Y. So here we go. Click, 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 click. And we're doing an asymmetrical Y because they tend to be a little bit more interesting. We can change the size of the tree later when we've done all the work, but it's so much easier when you're working with selections to work big. So as soon as we see the 0 right there, we know that when we click that the selection will be finished. Now if you've got a pretty difficult selection in place and you don't want to lose it, immediately go up to Select and go Save the Selection. And this one we're going to call Tree 1 OK. Now let's add to it. Put your cursor out here and hold down the Shift key, and you'll see that you get a little plus right next to it. So we're going to add to this by adding more Ys. So holding the Shift key, we go inside the tree and start clicking. You can let go of the Shift key when you're outside, but here we go. We're going to start making a little bit of a Y over here, and we're going to come back into the tree. And when we come close to where we start, you'll see that we get a little 0. And when you see that, click, and you've got yourself another added selection to the original selection. So let's keep working. If we hold the Shift key again and we go inside, and we keep adding, you can let go of the Shift key once you're outside, otherwise it will want to hit straight lines like this. There's our 0. And we've got another one. I think it would be a good time to save this selection. So let's go Select and go down and Save Selection and call this one Tree 2 and then say OK. So if we lose it, we can always add Tree 2 in and we're all set. So let's keep going. I'm going to start here, hold the Shift key, I'm inside. Once I get outside, I can let go of the Shift key and do quick clicks with your mouse, which make it easier to control. Click, 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 just like that. And when you get inside, here's your 0, and you're all set. So let's keep going. We'll add a few more, and then I'll show you something else. Once you're outside, you don't have to hold the Shift key anymore. And maybe I'll do one over here. Hold Shift, start inside, click, and as soon as you're outside, let go of Shift. And here we have a pretty good tree. At least it's the beginning. You can add a lot more if you want. I'm going to go Select, Save the Selection, and I'm going to call this one the next number up, Tree 3 or 4. If you're not sure, just go to a higher number and say OK. Alright, so there we have it. Take a look at the tree and see if there's something you don't particularly like. So for example, if you think this branch is a little too wide in here, when you hold down the Shift key, if I do this I'll show you, if you hold Shift down you see a plus sign next to your selection tool. On the other hand, if you hold the Option Alt key down you see a negative. So we're going to cut away some of this big area here, and the way we do it is instead of starting on the inside, we start on the outside with a negative. So hold down Option Alt and come along and go like this. Wait till you see the 0, and then you get rid of that. And so basically, that's how you start building a tree. You can go select, save your selection as many times as you want. You might want to call this one Tree 5 and say OK. Now, when you get rid of this red layer by by turning off the eye, you can then turn on these other layers and see how your tree might look in this background. Remember, we're going to change the size at the end. So this is a good beginning to the selection tools.